Hello students, this is Shekhar Gehlot, Clat PG All India Rank 25 and I hold an LLM from National Law School Bangalore plus I am a UGC NET qualified teacher. So I will be mentoring you for Clat courses as well as law component in the CA IPCC courses. So today is our first lecture, lecture number 1. In the first lecture series, we'll begin with the constitutional law, that is which is for the Clat lecture series. So students, let us first understand what this word constitution means. In a very basic sense, this word constitution, it simply means a composition of something. It simply means a composition of something. Like you might be very much familiar with the term which I have written here is H2O. So H2O is the scientific name for water. Not scientific name I would say, but scientific equation for water. So if we have to find out the constitution of water, then we can very easily see that 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen is equal to water. This is the constitution of water. So now friends, somebody asks us that what is India, or what do you understand by the term India? So India can be described in many ways. Like we can describe uh, India geographically, or we can describe India by its linguistic preference, or we can describe by the strength of the army, or the government, or the form of the government. I mean, there can be n number of ways, like population. There may be so many ways in which India can be defined or described. But when we talk about defining or describing India in the most perfect manner, then it goes to the Constitution of India. So when we understand Constitution of India, it means that we are trying to understand the composition of India, what India is as a country. Okay, what are its citizens and what rights or duties do these people have? So when we describe India by the Constitution of India. The Constitution of India is nothing but India itself. The Constitution of India is the definition of India itself. If we have to define India in a uniform manner, we can very easily define it by the Constitution of India. So going to the literary definition, the Constitution of India is the document which lays down the fundamental framework of India, which includes. So fundamental framework, this word is very much relevant. Fundamental framework means something which is very basic or which cannot be altered, or without which a framework which is most important for this country to be India. If we change this fundamental framework, then this India will not be an India. And when I say this India will not be an India, I mean to say the India which our constitution says, which our preamble says that India is this country. So this country will not remain so if we make fundamental alterations or changes in the Constitution of India, which is not allowed. Legally, these changes cannot be made in the Constitution of India. Anyhow, that is a different story. So the document which lays down the fundamental framework is basically a structure on which a country or a house stands. Like when we construct a house, we have a basic structure first built up for that particular house. We have to dig up in the ground, we have to draw a map, a floor map has to be there, then there have to be exits, and there have to be balconies, and then pillars, and so many other stuff which go on to make a very strong framework on which a house can be set up. So the document which lays down the fundamental framework of India, which includes demarcating fundamental political code. So Constitution demarcates a fundamental political code for the country. Now suppose we have As a country, we follow parliamentary form of democracy. Parliamentary form of government or democracy we follow. If we take the example of some other country like USA, it has presidential political form. So in USA, President Obama and now President Trump, they are the one which run the country. But in our country, it is Prime Minister Modi, or earlier it used to be Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. Though we have a president, but all the powers and authorities vest with the parliament headed by the Prime Minister and his council of ministers. So that is, where do we get that from? We get that from the Constitution of India. Constitution of India demarcates the fundamental political code. Now we cannot do away with this democratic form. We cannot suddenly say that from today onwards this country shall be presidential form of government, or this country will have a government which runs parallel to the system of the Australian government. We cannot have that. Why? Because our system of political code is already set in crystallized pattern in the Constitution of India. Structure of India. So when I talk about structure of India, what do we understand by the structure of India? Structure of India is basically nothing but, like you see, we have a union at the center. Union is the union government. India as a whole is called a union. Then we have further division, that is states. We have now 29 states. Then we have union territories. Okay, then we have union territories. Then we have municipalities and panchayats. Okay, we have municipalities and panchayats. So these are the structures of India. How India as a structure has to happen. So this, how do we come to have these many things? How do we have union territory, municipalities, panchayat, states, and union? How do we have so many governments? We have because the structure of India is set by the Constitution of India, and we cannot alter it. Powers and duties of the government institutions. Now when I say that we have a government in which the Prime Minister is the head of the state, not the head of the state, head of the government, and then there is another wing of the government. We have three wings of the government that goes like legislature, executive, and judiciary. So these are the three wings of the government. Okay. Now legislature is supposed to legislate only, make laws. Legislature will make laws, like Indian Parliament makes law for the whole of the country, or like state of Tamil Nadu, the government of Tamil Nadu will make laws for the Tamil Nadu. Now where do they derive this law making power from? How can they make a law? I mean, suppose tomorrow somebody challenge that the government of India has made a so and so law, and now how can government of India make this particular law? Like if we talk about, there are so many challenges nowadays to this CAA Act, that is Citizenship Amendment Act, now which has become a Citizenship Act itself. So now CAA underwent so many challenges before the Supreme Court of India. The broad-based challenge is that whether Parliament has this power, whether the legislature has this power to legislate on this particular, to make law on this particular subject and in this particular manner. Now the government will have to satisfy the court that yes, it does have the power. Where does it have the power? It derives the power from the Constitution of India. So powers and duties of the legislature are crystallized in the Constitution of India. Then there is an executive branch. So many people are usually confused between what is a legislature and what is an executive. Legislature, in a very plain sense, is parliament. When we talk about parliament, parliament is, when you talk about parliament, parliament is both houses, that is Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, and President of India. So Parliament in the country includes Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha, both the houses, their elected and nominated members, plus the President of India. If we go to the states, in states it is State Assembly and State Legislative Council, plus the governor of that particular state. Why the president or the governor is part of this parliament or the legislature of the state is because every act in the country or in a state is carried out in the name of the President of India or the governor of that particular state. President of India is the head of the republic, he is the head of the country. So every acts are carried out in the name of the President of the India. Okay, so powers and duties of the executive. Okay, so we understand now by the legislature is members of both the houses jointly along with the President of India. But what is executive? Executive is people who are in charge in implementing a particular system or particular framework. Implementation. Their main job is implementation. Like for Government of India, I say Prime Minister along with Council of Ministers is the executive wing of India. He is the executive of India. Now suppose Parliament has passed a law that no person during this COVID times, no person shall travel out of India or enter India from any outside country without complying with these formalities. Formalities number 1, 2, 3. Three formalities are there. Now, these individual member of parliaments or the President of India, we cannot ask these people to station themselves personally at each and every ingress or egress point of India and to examine people and to verify whether they have complied with the law or not. That is not their job. That is the job of executive. So now executive, that is Prime Minister along with the Council of Ministers and their subordinates like we have a Home Minister. So Home Minister will direct to the police personals there. We have a Aviation Minister. He will direct to the DGCA, Director General of Civil Aviation. He will ask these people to implement this particular mandate of the Parliament. That Parliament now wants these three conditions to be fulfilled. Now they will direct their subordinates, police or the aviation members included, that you have to comply with these particular guidelines of the Government of India. This is the executive. Now then, judiciary, we all understand, it's a completely separate mechanism in which the court of law is established, and in the court of law it decides between the dispute settler. Judiciary is basically dispute settlement mechanism. A dispute may be between two individuals or maybe between one individual and the state on the other hand, or maybe between two states. Like there has been a long standing dispute between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu over the water share of Kaveri river. So that dispute is pending with the Supreme Court, or Supreme Court has constituted a tribunal using its powers. So judiciary is dispute settlement mechanism in which a judge or a number of judges are holding a court and they are just listening to the arguments and as per the law, as per the Constitution of India, giving their decisions. So powers and duties of the government institutions are set in the Constitution of India. Then the procedures. Procedure part is very much relevant to understand. Now we have two kind of forms. Forms means structures. One structure is the substantive in nature. Substantive is what it appears. I'll just make it somehow more clear. Substantive. Like we can have a very basic example, like we all go to the schools or colleges. The college or school, the building is that particular substantive structure, that building. But how that building is to be managed, okay, how the management will run, how the admissions will take place, how the students will progress, how the classes have to be held, how the examination process will go on. All these things are procedural part. Procedural parts of the law. So we have two kinds of law, substantive plus procedural law. So now this procedure, suppose in the parliament we have a government is sitting to pass a particular bill. Now there are many types of bill. A normal bill, money bill, finance bill, etc. and so on. So a normal bill, these bills once passed from the parliament become a law. So a normal bill, once this bill is passed from both the houses, it will become a law after obtaining the assent of the President of India. So similarly, money bill has its own procedure of passing, finance bill has its own procedure of passing in the both the houses. So this is the procedure. How do we know that normal bill or a money bill or a finance bill have different procedures? That is given in the Constitution of India. Then fundamental rights. Fundamental rights are very important, and most of the part of the Constitution, though it's only a single part number 3 of the Constitution have 22 parts. Out of these 22 parts, this is just one part, but most of the Constitution is concentrated within these parts of the Constitution itself. Fundamental rights, this is fundamental rights are the basic rights or the inalienable rights. A right in a simple sense means a due. If I have a right against someone, that means I have a due against that particular person. He has to give me that thing. So if I have a right, that means state has to accord that particular right to me. Now suppose I have a right to life. That means state cannot deprive me from my life. I have a right to life. State can now not take away my life, because state has to ensure that my right to life is exercised. So when I have a right, I always have it against someone. I cannot have it against me. I always have it against someone. So I have a right to life. I have a right to life against everyone. No one can take away my life. And if I have a threat, if I face a threat from someone, I can approach the state authorities like police or the other department, and then they will assist me. They will provide me security or take action against that particular offender. So my right to life shall be guaranteed, not only protected but guaranteed by the Constitution of India. Constitution of India guarantees these fundamental rights. Fundamental right in whole can be said to be a set of basic rights, a set of basic rights or inalienable rights. Inalienable means something which cannot be taken away from you, and if that particular thing is taken away from you, you will no longer survive or your personality will no longer exist. So these are those rights without which we won't survive as a human being, or we won't have a personality as a human being. So for being a human, we have to have these particular fundamental rights, and these rights are written down in the Constitution of India. We'll discuss about the fundamental rights later on when we'll do the fundamental rights chapter. Directive principles. Directive principles are those part which lay down the guiding policy for the governments. These are those principles which a government, any state government, maybe state government, panchayat government, municipality government, or the union government, which they have to follow in order to rule the country or run the country in the most efficient way, and to take the country to the new heights of the development. Okay, so these are the directive principles. Fundamental duties of the citizen. Some duties have been vested upon the citizen as well. There are 11 number of duties which a citizen of India has to follow. We'll do them later. Now, these are some of the features or some brief details about the Constitution of India. It is the longest written constitution of any country on the earth. We as an Indian should take pride in this fact that our Indian Constitution is not only the longest constitution but also the longest written constitution of any country on the earth. This is the importance which our founding fathers, which our constitution framers attached to this particular document, that it eventually became the world's longest written constitution of earth. It has all the minute details of this country, the people, and all the properties of the country. So it has all the minute details. It is a very beautiful document. We can easily call it the Bible of the country or the Gita of the country. Now it has 22 parts, 395 articles, 12 schedules, 3 lists. So it is a quite voluminous document, but we can never call the Constitution a boring document. It's always a very lively, very dynamic, ever changing, and very interesting document to be at. Despite being voluminous, it is always interesting and dynamic. We can also call it a birth certificate of the modern India. I'm calling it a birth certificate of modern India, but not the India itself. Why? Because our country has been in existence since times immemorial. India has been there since so many million years. But the modern India which we talk about today, which we live in today, which has this particular political framework, structure of India, the powers and duties of the government, procedure, fundamental rights, I mean all these things which make up modern India. The Constitution of India is the birth certificate of the modern India. That is, our modern India came into existence on 26th of January 1950. This can be called to be the date of birth of our modern India, not India as a country, but modern India, modern composition of India. So now let us understand how this Constitution of India came into existence, how we got this Constitution. In year 1946, when the India was about to get independence from the British Dominion, then British Prime Minister Clement Attlee sent a cabinet mission to the India. The main purpose of this cabinet mission coming to India was only to conduct provincial elections. Province you can understand like a state, just like a modern day state. Like we have state of Karnataka, we have state of Bihar, Tamil Nadu, Rajasthan. That time we used to call them provinces. So provincial elections were to be conducted, and they were to be conducted under the supervision of cabinet mission. Now after the conduct of these provincial elections, these elected members of the provincial assembly. Now these provincial elections were held for the provincial assembly. We can easily equate it to the Lok Sabha of the today's time. So provincial assembly These members then elected members of the Constituent Assembly. So these members out of themselves elected members of the Constituent Assembly. There were 389 members initially. So initially, when the Constituent Assembly for the first time was set up, it had 389 members. So now it was the Constituent Assembly came into being on 9th of December 1946. This is the date of inception of the Constituent Assembly. So the senior most member, Dr. Sachidanand Sinha, was chosen as interim president. Now Sachidanand Sinha was chosen only as an interim president, not as a proper or final president of the Constituent Assembly. He was only interim president. Why? Because on 9 December 1946, Constituent Assembly came into being, and Constituent Assembly, any assembly cannot be without any head. It always is supposed to have a leader who leads the assembly or a head of the assembly. So because elections of the president were to be held within a day or two, so for that vacuum, just to fill the vacuum of 1 or 2 days till the elections of the for the president were held, the senior most member as a convention, because usually when a house comes into picture and the leader of the house is not yet decided, so it's usually we call the in that particular term, pro term, we appoint someone who is usually the senior most member out of all these members as the head till the time the real chosen head takes over. So Dr. Sachidanand Sinha, he was chosen, not elected, I say chosen, on 9th of December 1946, being the senior most member as the interim president of the Constituent Assembly. On 11th December, just 2 days later, elections were conducted and Dr. Rajendra Prasad was elected as full-time president, who later on became the first president of the Republic of India as well. So 11th December 1946, Dr. Rajendra Prasad was elected as a full-time president of the Constituent Assembly. H.K. Mukherjee was its vice president, and Shri B. N. Rao, Benegal Nursing Rao, was its advisor. So these are the four key figures during the initial years of the Constituent Assembly. On 13 December 1946, that is just 2 days after the election, Pandit Nehru moved a resolution known as the Objective Resolution. This Objective Resolution later on became the preamble of the Constitution. Okay, so Pandit Nehru moved a resolution known as Objective Resolution. The main purpose of this Objective Resolution is, just like as its name suggests, so Pandit Nehru was of view that before inception, before going on to frame a constitution of India, we should first of all work out that what should be the objects of the new India, what should be the ideals of the new India. So he moved an objective resolution which contained the objects of constitution, objects of the, which later on became the objects of India, or we can say aims or ideals of India, which ideal India is going to follow, which aim India is going to achieve as a country. So these were the part of objective resolution. Later on, these were incorporated into the preamble of the Constitution. Later, so this is till independence we are discussing. It had usually this Constituent Assembly till before independence, it had 389 members. But as we all know, India was divided in 14th-15th August 1947. India was divided into two countries, unfortunately, India and Pakistan. So some members, almost 90 members, moved out to Pakistan, and now the strength of the Constituent Assembly was reduced to 299 only. On 29th August 1947, Constituent Assembly created drafting committee headed by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, having 7 members in all. So this is the drafting committee now being set up. On 29th August 1947, Constituent Assembly set up a subcommittee called drafting committee, which was headed by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who is very famous for drafting the Constitution of India. So what is the job? What was the job of this drafting committee? The purpose of this drafting committee was whatever was being discussed in the Constituent Assembly. The Constituent Assembly, with its full 299 members, was always busy in discussing what should we have in the Constitution of India. What kind of the Constitution do we want to have, and what kind of powers, privileges, its citizens and its the government, the structure, the procedure, whatever all things they wanted, this Constituent Assembly wanted India to have in its constitution. Its job was only to draft it. They were only writing down whatever was being approved by the Constituent Assembly. So that is why we usually say Dr. B.R. Ambedkar is the one who wrote down the constitution, because he was heading the drafting committee. On 26th November 1949, this is the day which our constitution was enacted and adopted. On 26th November 1949, India finally gave itself a constitution of India, which was enacted and adopted on 26th November 1949. This day is usually celebrated as Constitution Day or also as a Law Day. Okay, so this date is very relevant. It may be very much asked in the exams that when, on which date our constitution was enacted and adopted. So usually people are very much confused between 26th November 1949, and you must be thinking that our constitution came into being on 26th of January 1949. Now why sir is telling us 26th November 1949? See, the issue is on 26th November 1949 constitution was only enacted and adopted, but it was enforced, it was brought to the power, it was implemented only on 26th of January 1950. That is when India gave itself a constitution. India gave herself a constitution, that is on 26th of January 1950. On this particular day, the Constituent Assembly gave constitution to the parliament. It gave the constitution, finally sealed and approved constitution, to the parliament, that this is the final copy and we all agree and abide by this particular constitution. But this constitution was brought into picture on 26th of January 1950. Now usually people are clueless as to why this 2 months delay took place and why not immediately on this date, when we already had our constitution, when we had enacted and adopted this particular constitution on 26th November 1949. Why did we wait for 2 more months, and what is so special in this particular date, that is 26th of January? So the reason is, this particular day 20 years before, on 26 January 1930, Indian National Congress in its Lahore session had passed a resolution seeking for complete independence, or it's also called Purna Swaraj, from the British rule. So 20 years before, on the same particular day and date, the Indian National Congress, that was the ruling dispensation at the time when this constitution was adopted. So this ruling government, when it was only a party in 1930, 26 January, in its Lahore session, had passed a resolution for complete independence or Purna Swaraj. So this particular date had a very high relevance or significance in the memories of the freedom fighters or the key players of the Indian National Congress. That is why this particular day was chosen to be immortalized as the date of the enforcement of the Indian Constitution. That is why we get 26th of January 1950. Now I hope you all understand the difference between 26th November 1949, that is the date on which Constitution was enacted and adopted, but it was enforced only on 26th of January 1950. Now if we discuss about the how much time did it take, or how many sessions did Constituent Assembly take in finally coming up with the final version of the Constitution of India. Constituent Assembly took 11 sessions. Like our Parliament or the State Assembly, they work in the sessions like monsoon session or winter session. Similarly, the Constituent Assembly used to sit into the sessions. These sessions usually were of 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and during these sessions debates used to take place. So it took overall 11 sessions to the Constituent Assembly in completing the Constitution of India. There may also be a reference sometimes about a 12th session in unofficial corridors. There may be a discussion about 12th session of the Constituent Assembly, but officially we are having only 11 sessions. This 12th session sometime is discussed which took place just on 24th January 1950. It was a single day meeting in which Constituent Assembly, all members again met 2 days before the enforcement of the Constitution of India. A special session was held where 284 members, they all appeared, they all came, and they all signed individually, they all signed the original copies of the Constitution, signifying their assent to the final draft of the Constitution, that is on 24th of January 1950. So this particular day sometimes unofficially is counted as the 12th session, usually in the legal form or in the official way we have only 11 sessions. So only 284 members could attend, though we had 299 members, but 15 members could not come. Some of them passed out, or some of them were ill, or some of them could not attend. So that is why only 284 members. The time it took is 2 years, 11 months and 17 days to complete the Constitution of India. Now this is the time frame which our Constituent Assembly took in order to come up with this particular copy of the Constitution of India. Now let us understand what is Preamble of India. Preamble means a prelogue, or like we call a trailer or a teaser. A trailer or a teaser. Just like if we discuss about any movie, new movie which is about to be released, usually a 2-3 minutes teaser or a trailer is launched before the launch of the particular movie. So that trailer gives you an insight. It provides you a inside window or a peeping hole through which you can have a general view of what this movie is going about to be, whether this movie is going about to be a crime thriller, or it is going to be or is it going to be a sports movie or a comic movie or a drama movie, or what kind of movie is this going to be. That is the job of the teaser or a trailer, to give you an insight, a inside window or a peeping hole through which you can see what you can expect from this particular movie when it launches. This is the job of preamble. Preamble is a peeping hole through which you can have a broad view of what to expect from the India as a country or the Constitution of India. It gives you a general introduction to what India stands for and what the Constitution of India is all about, because it's a voluminous document, like we discussed, 395 articles. So before you go on, before you venture upon to study these 395 articles and to do a detailed insight of the Constitution, this is a trailer or a general outview of what you expect or what you should expect from the Constitution of India. So Constitution of India, this preamble goes like this: we, the people of India. Now it says, we, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens. Now, first of all, we'll understand what this sentence is all about. It says, we, the people of India. It means the Constitution of India is not given to us by the Constituent Assembly alone. This we, the people of India, it signifies that these Constituent Assembly members were elected by those people who were themselves elected by the people of India. So the people who were sitting in the Constituent Assembly, the leaders who were sitting in the Constituent Assembly, they were directly representing the people of India. So when they give to this country a Constitution of India, that means the people of India, we all people of India jointly having solemnly resolved to constitute India. We have solemnly, after a lot of discussion and with an open and broad thinking mind, mature mind, we have resolved to constitute India. This is the Constitution of India. How India is going to be. This is the composition of new and modern India into so new and modern India is going to be a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic and republic. This is what our country is going to be. So now let us all understand what is sovereign. Sovereign is usually free from external control. So sovereign is one who is free from external control. We can all understand that when India was there earlier, before this constitution came up, we were a British colony. India was a British colony, not even a country itself. It was treated as a British colony. Why? Because British people had control over the affairs of the government of the India, and India as a country was not sovereign. We did not have our own army, we did not have our own chosen people to run the country, we did not have our own institutions. So we were totally under the control of the British government. That is why we were not sovereign. But now the constitution framer says from today, from this particular date, 26 January 1950, India shall forever be a sovereign country. It shall be free from any external control. That means no outsider could interfere in the matters of India or the government of India. Therefore, from that day particular onwards, 26 January 1950, we were free from any external control. Now, no country can dictate India to do or behave in certain particular manner. We have our own army, we have our own head, we have our own government, we have our own boundaries, territories, and we have our own resources, and we are a thriving country, and we are a sovereign state. No other person or no other country or institute has a control over India or its affairs. Then we are a socialist country. So when India attained independence, that particular time, India was a very poor country. There were so many factors for that poverty. Largely, we can say that two impeding world wars, which India had recently seen in 1419 and 38 to 45, and then there were severe droughts and famines across the country, and the overall GDP of the country was not very good, and whatever resources India had were plundered and looted by the British government. So India, when India attained freedom, it was very poor state, and almost 70%, 70-75% people were living below the, officially they were below the poverty lines, and making two ends meet or eking out a living was a distant dream for many Indians. So in this state, when this country was given to us, handed over to the Indians, so our founding fathers, our framers of the constitution, thought it fit that India should be called a socialist country. It should have a socialist pattern. Socialist pattern. This socialist pattern here doesn't resemble to the socialist pattern followed in the USSR or nowadays Russia or the China, but it has a socialism of its own. On experiment, this socialism is not a traditional socialism. It's not a traditional socialism which frustrates the idea of industry or the capitalism altogether. No, this is not that socialism. You are allowed to have private ownership or have capitalism, but at that particular point of time, the main aim or the main problem to address before the government of India or the India as a whole was to address the widespread inequalities, and 70% people was below poverty line. So it was thought that for the time being, our main policies should be socialist in nature. Socialist means policies which are for the general welfare, for the general welfare, not for the particular class or the particular industry. We will generally welfare everyone, and we will generally take care of all the inequalities in the society, will treat everyone equally. Secular. So this secular word has two connotations. A, which means no religion of its own. B, equal tolerance to all religions. So the founding fathers, because the atmosphere in which our country had gotten independence was such that there was a massive bloodshed which took place between two religions in the country at that time, and Hindus and Muslims. And unfortunately, the India as a country also was divided, split into two pieces on these religious lines only. So, founding fathers thought that now the coming endeavors for the country or India as a whole should be to achieve a secular environment where there is common brotherhood between all the religious people, and no religion, no particular religion, despite the number of people following it, should feel alienated or should feel hatred in India. So that is why they said India is a sovereign, socialist, secular. So secular means secular has two connotations. Point one is that the state or the country of the government of India will have no religion of its own. Like if we see to the constitution of the Pakistan, it broadly declares that the Islamic State of Pakistan. That means they follow Islam. The government of India follows, the government of Pakistan follows Islamic laws. That is an Islamic country. Earlier, few years ago, Nepal, which did not have, which now has adopted a altogether new constitution. Now it has become a secular state. But earlier, Nepal had a Hindu constitution. Nepal's constitution stated that Nepal shall be a Hindu state, but now it has adopted a secular approach. So, India, right from 1950, was very much clear that it has to be a state which does not follow any religion. It does not have its own religion, so it does not subscribe to any particular religious ideology. The state government or the central government of the India country as a whole can neither be categorized as a Hindu state or neither Islamic state or Jain state or Sikh state or Christian state or Parsi state. In any case, you cannot categorize state with the associate state with the religion. Plus B, equal tolerance to the or religion. It says not only state will not have its own religion, but at the same time, state shall be equally tolerant to all religions. So now all religious peoples, all followers of different religion in India can feel safe because India is a secular state. So Hindu is welcome here, Muslim is welcome here, Sikh is welcome, Parsi is welcome, Christian is welcome. We are tolerant to all and alike. We do not discriminate between a Hindu and a Muslim or a Muslim and a Christian. We love all equally and we have equal tolerance for all religions. Plus, state does not have its own religion. That is the connotation of the word secular. Then this is very frequently used word. We are a democratic country. Democratic country means we have a form of government which is called democracy. In this democracy, people elect their own rulers. Leaders is the appropriate word, I won't say rulers. People elect their own leaders which represent them in the parliaments or the state legislative assembly. That means we do not subscribe to any other form of the government other than the democracy. We have monarchy, we have aristocracy, we have different other forms, military form of the rule. We do not have military army can never be the head of the country, or we cannot have a monarch who is just son of a king. Like UK, we have Queen Victoria. She is still she is still the head of the state just because she took birth in a blue family. So India does not worth any individual by the place of birth or the family of the birth. No, but you have to establish your merit. Leaders in India or representative in India are chosen by the people whom they want to represent. So we have a
It's 3 o'clock.
most perfect form of government called democracy. Then there is republic. So many people sometimes are confused between democracy and a republic. When even when I'm usually teaching, this is a question which comes up so many times. Sometimes students are not able to differentiate between what is an Independence Day and what is a Republic Day. What is the 15th of August and what is the 26th January? Or if they are able to understand, they do not really know what this word republic means. Republic means head of the state shall be elected. That means the head of the state. Republic means our head of the state shall be an elected one. We'll have our own head of the state and he shall be elected. Like nowadays we have Mr. Honorable Ramnath Kovindji as our head of the state, as head of the Republic of India. He is elected leader. He has been elected by the our chosen representatives, that is people sitting in parliament and the legislative assemblies, and he is the head of the state. He is not our head of the state because he belongs to a particular family or he has particular qualification. No, he has been elected and he is a citizen of India. So now you all understand what the basic introduction to India. If you understand, if you read the Constitution of India, before that you will read the preamble, you will get a basic idea of what this constitution is going to be like, what this country is going to be like. So you can describe India in the words of preamble that India is a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic and republic country, and to secure to all its citizens. Okay, so it's securing to all its citizens, not to the residents. So this particular word citizen is very much relevant because these ideals are only for the first citizen and not for the non-citizens. At any given point of time there may be foreigners in India or people who have applied for citizenship but not granted, or some other people from some other countries but particularly not citizens of India. So these ideals are only for the citizens of the India who are proper citizens who have a right to vote, and to secure to all its citizens. Now it says, the preamble says, we the people of India, we have a kind of country. What kind of country? We have a country which is sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, republic and secure. It secures to all its citizens justice, social, economic and political. A lot many can be said about this particular word justice. It has a very dynamic definition which keeps on changing with the time, but to put it in the general term, which we may say what is just or fair is justice. Something which is just or something which is fair is justice. So we can also say to secure to all its citizens justice, fairness or justice in social, economic and political affairs. So now socially everyone is equal. Okay, so that is social justice. All equal. All are equal. All human beings, despite someone may be an IAS officer or someone may be a prime minister or someone may be a rickshaw puller or someone may be a cobbler or someone may be an engineer, lawyer, doctor or student or a grown up or an old or a young or a girl or a man. Okay, it may be, someone may be anything, but India will treat all of them equally. Like if we go back to 1920s, India, or because India was a British part, so Britain back till 1920 had different laws for men as well as different for women. Women were not allowed to vote. They were granted right to vote only in 1920. So India says we won't follow that particular practice. From day one Day one, we'll have social justice. That means all people will be equal in eyes of the law. In the eyes of law, all will be equal. One human being is equal to one human being only. We won't categorize that particular human being into what is his profession, what is his age, what is his gender, where does he come from, how much money or the access to resources he or she has. Then economic justice. It simply means that economic justice shall be there. Each individual shall have right to participate in the economic activity of the country. Okay, each individual shall have right to participate in the economic activity of the country. That means jobs shall be open to all, businesses shall be open to all. This is very much relevant in the context if we go back to 1950s when this particular constitution was framed up. India was battling with a system called Varna system. A Varna system in which people were divided into four subcategories, that is Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Sudra. So traditionally India was following, not India as a whole, but some bad element in the Indian society were following this Varna system, wherein these those who take birth in these particular categories were associated different economic activities. They could have carried out certain economic activities. They were allowed certain only. They were allowed certain. They were allowed certain. So each category had its defined economic sphere in which they could have carried out these economic activities. But India says, at the time of birth, India says that we as a country, we root out or weed out these ill practices. We do no longer follow any such demarcation between its citizen or human beings, and economic justice shall be accorded to all. So now, irrespective of whatever birth you have taken or whatever family you belong to, all jobs shall be open to all. All shall have equal opportunity to carry out any business or trade they want to, or any study they want to continue. Political justice. It shall ensure political justice. Political justice means one person is equal to one vote. Okay, so one person is equal to one vote. We cannot have a formula in which Brahmin's vote is equal to 4 vote or some other, or like that. We cannot differentiate between people based upon their birth or their worth, either their birth or how much money they have, or what is the influence of these people have. So in political sphere, justice shall be ensured and every person will have only one vote. All human beings will not only have a right to vote, but each will have only one vote. Okay, only one vote irrespective of whatever social standing they have, plus all have right to vote. All will have right to vote. Anyone who is above 18, that is the right of adult suffrage. Anyone who is adult above 18 shall have right to vote, plus right to contest elections as well at any post he or she prefers. So this is the political justice which our preamble aims to achieve. Then liberty. Liberty can very easily be categorized as freedom. So, India says that I shall secure to all my citizens liberty, that is, freedom of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship. India says that I shall ensure all my citizens freedom of thought. So now nobody can control or decide what a person has to think, or how a person or an artist or a poet or a particular author has to express himself or herself in in her or his art, or what belief one carries. I may I may be born a Hindu, but I may believe in Islamic laws, Islamic God. I may be a Muslim, but I may follow Christianity. So that is freedom of belief. No one can compel me just because I am a Hindu that I should follow only Hinduism, or I cannot become a Muslim, or I cannot become a Christian, or a Christian cannot become a Hindu. That is liberty of thought, expression, belief. I may be a Hindu, but I may believe into Islam, or I may believe into Christianity, or vice versa, or what is my faith, or I may have a totally different kind of faith, or I may start my own way of faith and worship. India, India is a land of worship. We have so many ways of worshipping people. So we may worship different gods, our own, like in each villages in India. Just to give a very concrete example, we all India lives in the villages, and we all belong to villages, and every village is having their own deity. It has its own deity, uh, own god and goddesses. So every village has its own god and goddesses. Then we have our religious gods and goddesses, and we have different ways of worshipping. We have different ways of celebrating. So we all are free. There is complete freedom of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship. No one can compel any other person, or the government cannot compel, or anyone cannot compel you to follow a particular faith, or you forced conversion cannot be there. That's it. Equality. Equality of status and opportunity. It is just like we discussed social justice. It somehow overlaps here, but anyhow, equality of status and opportunity. That means all individuals are equal before law. Law or the government shall not differentiate between its citizens on the basis of their birth or the social position they hold. Okay, so I may be a just like I said while we were discussing justice, social justice. Similarly, I may be a rickshaw puller, or I may be an engineer, or I may be a doctor, or I may be a cobbler. Law shall treat me equally. I shall have equal access to all the resources and the opportunities of the state. Suppose an elected MLA, he goes for the re-election in the coming elections. So I can also contest an MLA election. There is no bar that for contesting an MLA election I have to be an MLA myself, or only ex MLAs can contest an MLA election. No, all people have equal opportunity. They have to fulfill certain criteria like minimum age and citizenship of the country, which is PAN country, which is applicable to all without any discrimination. So state shall not have any discrimination, and state shall ensure equality of status, that everyone is treated equal before law. Suppose I commit a crime, or a member of parliament commits a crime, or a sports star commits a crime. Law will treat all of them equally. There won't be a differentiation of the punishment, there won't be a differentiation of the procedure followed at the court of law. Okay, and suppose a crime is committed against a billionaire, or a crime is committed against a poor person, then also the law shall provide equal protection to both of them. Law shall not discriminate between people based upon their status or the opportunity, and to promote among them all. Further, preamble says India shall be, what kind of country India shall be? India shall be a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic and republic country. This is the broad framework of our country. This is how our country is going to be like this. Plus, what will this country ensure to its citizens? Country will ensure to its citizens justice, liberty, equality, and further, it shall promote. Now this is the duty of the state. State to promote among them all, state shall promote among the people or citizens of the country fraternity. Fraternity means brotherhood. Fraternity means brotherhood. So the country shall ensure that there is a brotherhood or amity, friendship between the country and different religions of the country and different groups of the country, that all are having a feeling of safety and security around each other. Nobody has any enmity. State shall not promote that particular propaganda, or state shall not profess that particular ideology which seeks to promote enmity between two sections of the society. No, state shall only promote peace, brotherhood, tranquility and friendship between its citizens. So state shall keep itself away from any such propaganda which has the elements of creating enmity between the sections of the society. To promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. Now they say that when we follow all these ideals, when we follow all these, then only the dignity of the individual shall be ensured, and plus the unity and integrity of the nation as a whole, India as a whole, will be maintained. The only way to maintain integrity and unity of nation and to assure individual dignity is that India as a whole shall follow all these ideals. Dignity of individual means individual self-worth. We should not, the country should not treat one individual so small or so worthless enough that you do not consider that one person, or his or her voice is never heard of. Why? Because he is just one individual. No, dignity of the single individual also has to be maintained. Every individual has to be treated very nicely, very carefully, and given considering all these factors. Plus only if we follow these rules, then only unity and integrity of the nation can be maintained. Unity and integrity, by it means that all 29 states of India shall stay together. There shall be no discord between the states, like Karnataka and Tamil Nadu should not have enmity, or Bihar or Jharkhand should not have enmity with itself, or like Punjab should not say that I do not like Haryana. Like this thing should not happen, and unity and integrity of the nation as a whole, as one unit, all these 29 nations plus these 130 crore people of different colors, different identities, different genders, different occupation, different education, different background, different stratas, different religion, they all remain united as India as a whole. In our Constituent Assembly this 26th day, November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact and give to ourselves this Constitution. That is 26th November 1949. They gave India this Constituent Assembly. We gave ourselves Constitution of India, but we enforced it later only on 26th January 1950. So enough for today's class. Thank you.